everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome to NBA Spotlight 2021.
I'm really excited to be here with all of the lovely panelists here as well, and hoping to answer as many questions as possible for you guys.
I think as long as you're eager to learn, you have a growth mindset, you'll be completely fine.
I wouldn't rush to apply in round one if you're not going to have an amazing application in round two.
We don't consider age as part of your MBA application. We're looking at students who have demonstrated leadership potential and who have had an impact.
We know it's a process that requires a lot of work from your end. So whatever we can do to help guide you through it, we're really here for it.
And welcome, everybody. That was our introduction to the MBA Spotlight, which, as you can see by that video, is going on November 29th. I highly recommend you join and watch. So welcome, everybody, to our first debrief, our YouTube GMAT Club debrief in quite a while, at least hosted by GMAT Club. I know Ninja has done a couple here and there, but that wasn't us. So we're back. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Evan. You probably know me by my forum name, Nightblade354. And joining me today is a student who, through self-studying, got a 770, which I find truly incredible. His name is John Newcomb, I believe. I didn't clarify how to pronounce his name. And John, before we kick things off, before I ask you to introduce yourself, I want to see if you are truly as smart as you claim to be with that 770. So quick question for you, buddy. When was George Washington's birthday? I want the full date.
Oh. See, this is one of those times where I wish I had the augmented brain, the computer built in, so I could just search it without my eyes fluttering around my screen and looking it up. I'm gonna have to go. He seems like in August 14th.
And August 14th. And what year would you say that was?
17. Let's say 1760. Or not 1760, maybe 1732.
Wow, okay, you got the year right, but you got the day and month wrong. February 22nd, 1732, Oof. George Washington. So bravo. You were close there, Vivek. Vivek, however you pronounce your name. I'm going to butcher names. It's okay. So you're not perfect. That's okay. Nobody is except me.
770, not 800.
One other additional comment before we dive into here with John and hear about all of his fantastic tips and resources that he used to get his fantastic score. We are doing another debrief tomorrow. So since we haven't done, I guess, one in a very long time, we're trying to do two back-to-back. So if you don't find this one very helpful, though I think you will, John seems like he's a good guy, we are doing one tomorrow with Selby, who scored a 760. I'm sorry, Selby didn't score a 760, but the person she's interviewing scored a 760. So she will be interviewing that person tomorrow morning, Sunday. So stop by. Now, show me some love. Yes, there's Selby. For those of you who don't know, she does Instagram videos with me. She is a lovely human being. You'll absolutely love her. She won't do as good a job as I will. So, John, you lucked out there. But we're hoping that she does a good job. And this is a competition, by the way. We want to see who gets more views. So if you like my material, let me know in the comments and please view this video. If you like hers better, do the same thing on hers and also drop your name so I can ban you from the forum. But with that said, John, I've monologued enough. Why don't you give a little introduction about yourself? Tell the world who you are.
Yeah, thanks, Evan. What's up, guys? My name is John, as you can see. I recently graduated from the University of Washington in Seattle with a BS in applied physics. Over the summer, a couple summers ago, or not last summer, but the summer before last, I was living with a buddy of mine named Eric Kubler. Feel free to look him up. He's a really sharp guy. He's actually working in the startup space right now on a really cool calendar app named Cron. Go ahead and check him out if you want to, CRON. But anyway, he was studying for the GMAT and consistently was coming to me for his quant questions just because I'm pretty good at math, historically have been. And after a few weeks, he was just, I guess like somewhat impressed. And so he told me that he would pay for me to take the GMAT. And at first I was reluctant, I was like, I'm a GRE guy. I'm a physics guy, whatever. But the more research that I did, the more that we talked about it, the more that I realized, okay, this is like the MBA is something I definitely want to pursue. I'm not the kind of guy that wants to work in a silo. I want to work with people. I want to work across teams and eventually become a PM of some sort. Hopefully in the realm of artificial intelligence development or just kind of in that general umbrella. After school, so I graduated in June of this year. In about August, I started studying for the GMAT. Just kind of wanted to get out of the way ahead of time before I get a job, before life speeds up a little bit, or a full-time job and life speeds up. So I probably studied close to 2 hours a day for 2 months. Probably spent 4 to 5 weeks in the quant section in total, and about 3 weeks studying for the verbal, just because I see the verbal as significantly harder to plan for, and I see the quant as a stronger foundation, at least for myself, and that's kind of consensus that I find across forums as well. At any rate, so I went in and I took it just to get out of the way. I got a 770. I was anticipating getting in the range of 760 to 790 just from previous scores. But yeah, so I brought that home and really proud of it, and I'm looking forward to what I can do with it and how I can applying to schools and whatnot in the future, etc. So really, I think the main point here is I have a really good friend in my life who influenced me positively. And now, it's looking bright. So,
I mean, if only it were that easy to get 770 every time, I think everybody would be happy. But again, you got a great score, and that's why you're here. So I want to back us up a little bit because, I think a lot of our students who are going to view this are going to agree with you that quant tends to be easier. At least, the majority of test takers, I believe, I haven't seen the recent statistics, are from, I believe, India and China, and they tend to have more rigorous quantitative courses through their formative years than, say, the traditional European or American students who, because we're verbal, we automatically speak the language, our verbal tends to be a wee bit stronger. So good that you focused on verbal and not quant, because our students can't allowed to have that. But I want to back us up to, what was the first thing you did after you decided to take the GMAT? So your friend tells you about this thing, you've started to think about it, you're like, you know what, this makes a lot of sense. What did you do initially to kick off your studying? Was it coming to GMAT Club? Was it Googling the test and seeing what it was all about? Was it taking a mock test to figure out where you stood? What was that like?
Yeah, absolutely. I started in the Google search box, probably something like, what is the GMAT? What is the GMAT like? What are the sections in the GMAT? So on and so forth. I probably pretty quickly texted my buddy who was studying and said, hey, look, like, all of these courses are thousands of dollars. Is this what you do? Is this what people do to study for the GMAT? Do they go to Princeton Review? Yeah, I had no idea. I was like, I don't have $1,700 to shell out to Princeton Review. But if I need to, like, is this what I have to do in order to get a good GMAT score? I said, hey, look, man, I know a lot of people who have done well in the GMAT through self-studying. You're a bright guy. I think you should try it. I've been studying via GMAT Club for the past couple months. I think you should go on there, get the 3-month membership. Yeah, and by the way, full disclosure, GMAT Club I'm under no contract or obligation. GMAT Club, it is 100%. It's true. Yeah, exactly. It is 100% the best resource for studying for the GMAT. I tried Veritas. I tried Manhattan Prep as well. Both of them are great, but 100% the best resource is GMAT Club for sure. Without a doubt.
We're cheap. We don't pay people to give endorsements here. And by the way, John, just for your record, because I didn't cover this in our pre-session, for those of you who are watching, we do have, yes, LB, we'll go GMAT Club. We do have a pre-session where we just talk for a few minutes, and I forgot to mention to John, and I'll say it now live. Feel free to bash anybody you want to. And feel free to sing the praises of anybody you want to. We don't care. I'll bash so we at GMAT Club do have sponsors, and they're prep companies, they're consultants. I don't care. bash every single one of them for all I care. As long as it's back and you had a bad experience or a good experience, we let it go. I tell people all the time, I think GMAT isn't great. I've heard a lot of people hate it. I hear some like it. I hear a lot hate it. That makes me a little weary. So when students ask, I don't recommend it. So I mean, just like that, feel free to bash people. Go ahead. It's good content.
All right. Yeah, I'll be a little more aggressive then for sure. But really though, across all the services I used, I have nothing bad to say about any of them. Again, whenever you go online, you look whenever you go online, you look at GMAT, you see a bunch of mixed reviews, and that's just a red flag to me. GMAT Club has a ton of awesome preparatory questions for sure.
Yes,
but I will say that prior to taking my GMAT, or the GMAT, not my GMAT, I did go through the tests that Veritas offered, and I went through the tests that Manhattan Prep offered, and there were some questions on there where I had to sit down and I had to think for a second because it was just a different format. So it's kind of like just becoming fluent in the entire language of the quant section or the verbal section, saying like, okay, this is one way that a question can be asked, and GMAT Club may have missed 2 or 3 different styles or something, or 2 or 3 different cases, because that's what quants come down to, is that there are 7 or 8 cases for each category, and so honestly, the Manhattan Prep for the quant section is really tough. Really, it's I was finishing the GMAT Club Quant section, or the GMAT Club Quant CATs with 10 minutes to spare by the time I was done studying, and 5 minutes, something like that. And whenever I went on Manhattan Prep, it was literally like I'm stopping at 24 questions. It was like, wow, this is a different ballgame.
Interesting. So I do want to hit on your quant at some point. So I do want to bring it back a little bit and hit on it a little bit later.
Sure.
But I mean, I gotta say that is surprising, given that a lot of students find our quantitative tests to be fairly challenging, like on the higher end of things. So the fact that you were finishing with a lot of time to spare, I mean, that to me, granted, you got an amazing score. So, I mean, and you said you're quantitatively gifted, so to speak. So that shouldn't surprise me. But hey, come on, I mean, Bunel is writing these tests. He's writing the questions. It's writing the questions. I mean, anyways, that's impressive, to say the least.
Well,
just saying. Kudos
I
to you.
appreciate it. And full disclosure, whenever I was a kid, I competed in mathematics competitions. So whenever I was in junior high and high school, I competed in this event called Number Sense. It's UIL, I think Universal Interscholastic League, something like that. Just academic competitions in Texas. Whenever I was in junior high, I was consistently second in the state in mental math. So I might have a leg up there. So don't ask me any questions. I get nervous on the spot, but yeah. So and then of course just competing in pure math as well. I don't know. Maybe some of you guys out there have heard of math counts. I was religious about math counts growing up. I love that organization and that competition.
So folks, those who are watching, I hope you understand that John is a unique case. Not everyone is finishing number 2 in their state in mathematics as a kid. So take at least his quantitative background with a grain of salt. Not that it's a bad thing. Like, you have a stupidly high IQ. I'm envious. That's that's a great thing to have. No, I'll ask later. I'll ask a question later around that. But in the meantime, so take the quant side with a grain of salt. We'll try and dig in a little bit to how you prep for it, but I guess we'll focus on verbal. But you started off by Googling, come to GMAT Club, figuring out sort of what we had available to us. What was your timetable like, and what were the goals around it? So were you hoping to get a 780 in 2 months? Were you hoping to get a 700 in a year? What was the framework?
Yeah, so I I came on GMATclub.com and basically just started messing around. I explored the verbal tests, I explored the quant tests, started doing my research, started looking into, okay, what is a good GMAT score? If I do apply at Harvard, if I do apply at MIT, if I apply at,
Which you will.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm going for. Like when I do apply at these places, what gives me the greatest leverage? So of course, went on websites. Again, GMAT Club, the forum's great. Answers literally every single question you have if you just dig a little bit, or really just reference Google. I wouldn't even say dig. It's pretty well referenced on Google. And
Yes,
then, yeah, it's great. It's a great search engine. Can't deny that. And then of course, Poets and Quants, the other sites. Looked at it, saw, there's a really pretty Venn diagram somewhere, or like a circle chart somewhere, a pie chart that shows the breakdown. Okay, how do you get into a top tier business school? And it shows like how you're scored as a candidate. About 20% of it is GMAT, about 6% of it is your raw quant score. Of course, your undergrad GPA comes in, your work experience, and then things that set you apart, languages, so on and so forth. And so looking at that, I saw that slice of the pie, the GMAT, and I said, okay, look, I have the complete ability to control here. This is something that I can absolutely dominate, especially that quant section. So then after that, I started looking online. I, probably on GMAT Club, saw someone else's preparatory guide that was like, hey, look, like here is how I would recommend studying for the GMAT. So I took that, modified it a little, well, started studying, started getting an idea how much I can do per day, given constraints with work and other obligations built in, obviously, to your day. You can't just, some people just can't take two hours of their day every day. Some people can take 30 minutes out, and that's just fine also. I was lucky enough to have 2 free hours pretty much every day of the week that I could take out to study for the GMAT.
So then, when was that?
I was getting up early in the morning. I was starting at, actually some days I was getting up at 4 and starting to work at 4 at a formal job, from 4 to noon, and then at noon taking a break, and then from 1 to like 3:30 studying for the GMAT. And then other days, I was getting up at like 6, studying from 7 to 9. I have business on the West Coast, and I live on the East Coast right now. So that meant like studying from 8 to 10, starting work at 11. So yeah, I basically just figured out how much I could do in a day, figured out what my increment was. So basically, in other words, what is the amount that I can bite off per day, and figured out, okay, here's the size of the pizza. How am I going to break this up and eat it? And then just kind of attack it from there. I made a very detailed plan that was like, okay, here is the amount of time and effort that I'm willing to exert on the quant section before I focus on the verbal section, because I can't just be ignorant and just, work toward perfectionism up until the last moment. Because of course, whenever you're taking those CATs, I'm not getting a 51 every time. I'm getting a 51, I'm getting a 50, I'm getting a 49. Basically it's just like, okay, when the reality that dawned on me was whenever I go in to take the GMAT, I'm rolling the dice essentially, because my score for each section is on a normal curve. So 50% of the time I'm going to get a 50, 25% of the time I'm going to get a 49, and 25% of the time I'm going to get a 51. So that's just the way life works. And then for the verbal section, it's the same thing, except just vastly different in the scores, because one question can shift you from a 40 to a 45. The verbal section, in my opinion, is just. I don't know how, like, I don't have a solution to it, but it's really hard to control for. It's really hard to control for difficulty. I mean, some of those questions, especially the sentence correction questions, where you're just looking at it like, okay, I understood what they said perfectly, but there's a grammatical error, and of course, like I get what they're testing there. I understand what they're going after with those types of questions, and that's just that's just typical GMAT, really. I mean, and it's a beautiful thing. It's an ugly thing, but it is certainly a real thing. But yeah, so I guess back to the main question. Broke it up. I made a detailed plan. Okay, here are the topics, and GMAT Club lists these off very nicely under the quant section. CATs. Yeah, GMAT Club. I wish I had a shirt. I could rep it.
We'll send you one.
Maybe I'll just get a tattoo. a chest tat. I'll be able to unbutton my shirt or something. But
Well, why stop there?
fair enough. Fair enough. Hey, look, GMAT to the moon, baby. Or GMAT Club, excuse me. So yeah, breaking it up into bite-sized chunks, taking it one at a time, figuring out, okay, here's my increment of improvement. Here's what's actually pushing the needle forward. Like I said, looking at the sections, and again, GMAT Club provides an excellent breakdown where, like, so the first thing you need to do, 100%, you need to get data. Okay, you need to get data on yourself. That is the most important thing, and that's why in my post I talk about this. I say you need to go through and take all of the CATs one time for sure before you even have an idea. I mean, granted, that's like 1,000 questions or like 600 questions, something like that. That is verifiably enough to get come to grips with where you need to improve. So then you can go into the analytics section on GMAT Club. You can see, okay, I'm doing great in the absolute value section, but my analytical geometry sucks. So I need to spend 2 hours tomorrow going through and looking at all the formulas and seeing where the gap in knowledge is, because clearly I'm missing something there. There's no reason that I should have a 10% miss rate on algebra and a 50% miss rate on inequalities, for example. So just, targeted approach to figuring out, okay, where am I missing? And again, that comes at the cost of taking tests and getting data together for that. So you can take an analytical approach. And again, like this is, or I guess my domain is data science. So that's just kind of the way I look at the world. And anyway, so that is my approach. That's probably, the first 2 weeks I was waking up every morning and just taking 2 tests, boom, just off the bat. It was a dome. It was a dome for sure. To wake up every morning and just do that off the bat. I'll tell you what, by the time I started work, I was very awake. It was much more effective than a crossword puzzle or a Sudoku. So
how about a nice bench press? How about that?
Yeah. Hey, look, like that suffices as well for sure. But yeah, so you have to get data on yourself for sure. And again, one of the biggest things and honestly, this is quite literally competitive mathematics. You are competing across the globe, 300,000 people taking the GMAT every single year, something like that. The most important thing in competitive mathematics is developing intuition for the question, so that whenever you see it, you can. And this is so important for the GMAT because, I guess I like to call it on those 700 level, 800 or 750 level questions where there are 2 turns in the road. And it's basically like you go through the question the first time through, and you have some preconceived idea of what the answer should be, and it makes sense, right? Like you read the question through, you're like, okay, I got this, but then you failed to think of some like very niche corner case where your logic doesn't hold, and that's what the GMAT's built for. So seeing those questions over and over and over again definitely will help you develop that intuition. For whenever you see it on the test, you'll think, okay, last time I saw this question, here's where I went wrong. It was a number properties question, and I forgot that X could be an irrational. I forgot that it could be like the square root of 3 or something. So next time I'm not going to miss that case. I'm going to plug in square root of 3 for X for the problem. And then you won't miss that part. Stuff like that, so, and it's the conditional questions or the data sufficiency questions. Oh my gosh. They're so fun. They're such a killer, they're amazing, honestly. And I think it's a great test of aptitude as well. So yeah, for I guess to wrap up on that question, yeah, sorry. I can take the mic and run with it a little bit.
No, you're good.
Perfect. So step 1, get data on yourself. You need to know where you are weak. Again, GMAT Club, super cheap, super effective.
I mean, we're free, but
if you're talking about the CATs though, I would 100% recommend it's like $70, something like that for a 3-month membership.
I haven't looked at our pricing model in a while, but we tend to give tests away fairly frequently. So
yeah, Yeah, and they're, I mean, I've seen it advertised like, hey, like, look, we're willing to work with you if you cannot afford $70, send us a DM. You know, we'll help you out however we can, something like that. So, because I mean, at least the vibe that I get from the website and from the community is, look, we are here to help each other, and that it is truly the only. It's the only website that is not a profit-based hierarchy, or at least that's the vibe that I get. Like I said,
Glad that doesn't.
yeah. That's the part again. Like when the first time you see GMATclub.com, you're like, I'll be, you know, full disclosure. I got on the website and I was like, what is this? Is it what, you know, this is so ugly, you know, it's
we're working on the UI. We understand.
Oh, but listen, by the end of it, the first DM that I sent to BB, I said, look, man, if y'all ever change the UI of this website, please put a button in the upper right-hand corner on a drop down to switch back to the original, because I love this site. I love this place. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's an artifact of the 2000s, and I need it absolutely.
It is an artifact of the 2000s. You're absolutely correct. So we can't dispute that.
Yeah. So okay. So then back on track. Get your data together. Figure out where you're missing. Go back through. For me, I was missing consistently across pretty much all categories the same amount or the same percentage. So I just went through and I did the hardest questions over again and just kind of baked them into my mind and said, hey, like these are the test cases that I need to use for question. Like whenever I see these words, here's what I think. Whenever I see X is greater than 0, I immediately think, okay, X is between 0 and 1, X is equal to 1, X is greater than 1, X is irrational, X is a terminating decimal, X is what else? Like I don't know if there are other test cases. And they're great.
Been a while since I studied quant, buddy.
yeah. Please, Evan, help me out, man. Come on. So knowing those test cases, and there's plenty of literature out there for that. I know on the GMAT Club website, there's probably a forum. There are probably 10,000 forums realistically on the different test cases, on the different on like just study guides in general, and for each subject within quant, there is a study guide within that. So you need 100%. The last thing that I did for studying for quant was I went through and I memorized all the formulas. Oh, also, if there's one thing that I can give to you today, I want you to remember that whenever you get a data sufficiency question that involves a rectangle, if they tell you that if they give you the shorter side, that also means that the longer side cannot be shorter than that side. So that's like, I don't know. That's like a big thing for me, was like, I don't know if I'm getting the point across properly, but the point is when I say the shorter side of the rectangle is 3, what is the what is the diagonal, or is the diagonal greater than this number? And it's like, okay, the shorter side is 3, so the diagonal cannot, since it's either a square or larger, or the other side is either 3 or larger, then you can say, okay, then the diagonal of this figure is either 3 square roots of 2 or greater, essentially. I digress. But know your formulas. That's the point. Whenever you run into a question where it's really unique like that, like that's what I'm like. It's one of those questions again where you can know your formulas, you can be great with numbers, but if you're not great with if you don't have like the logical reasoning, if you don't have that synapse fire, you're gonna miss it. So make a note every single time. There are only so many ways they can ask the question again before you know most of them. So that's how I suggest anyone go about cornering the GMAT Quant section. And again, like I mentioned earlier, it is the foundation off of which you build your score, because it is the easiest to plan for. So
it sounds like geometry may have been a challenge for you.
A little bit. It was fun. It was fun to. I mean, you're looking at this stuff and thinking, okay, wow, I haven't thought about angle side angle since I was a freshman in high school. 9 years later or 8 years later, however how much time has passed, I'm now having to go back and review this stuff. So they really do ask some fascinating questions. For example, like how many cubes can I fit? How many 6x6 cubes can I fit into, or 6x6x6 cubes can I fit into like a X by Y by Z box? And you have to know that you don't just take the volume of the box and divide it by the volume of the cube. You have to know that a cube will not, since it's a solid substance, it's rigid. You can't like take it and chop it in half and then slide it in a spot where. Anyway, I digress. I think the point here is that there are some fascinating geometry questions that you have to, and really, I think the part that stumps a lot of people is the absolute values, man. The absolute values are scary. Those were definitely a challenge for me a little bit, especially as I was doing my last preparations. And then if I were to suggest one thing to maybe not, I think GMAT Club probably has a forum for it. But if there is a way to simplify the double absolute value questions, those are killer. Those are destroyers of questions. Where you have,
I'll try and think about it.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, just stuff like that. And again, like there are questions you cannot control for, absolutely, and those are like those logical questions again where there's one that stands out in my mind that I just absolutely cannot bring myself to describe. I've tried to describe to the friends, and they always look at me like, wow, like you literally just said a bunch of letters and numbers to me and it made no sense. So I'll spare everyone that. I'm glad that I got that out of the way before this. But basically, like there are gonna be questions where you're gonna be looking at it and you're just gonna get the wrong answer. And that's literally just built into human nature. I mean, not human nature necessarily, but there's some people out there probably smarter than I am, smarter than any of us here, who can get it right every single time. Very, very smart people. But that is what the GMAT is designed for, is to give you questions like that to see like, okay, you can answer this question type correctly 75% of the time. You're pretty smart. Even at like a rate of 25%, it's like, okay, you are thinking differently. You're thinking outside of the box. You are using all of the givens at your disposal to find the correct answer, which is what the GMAT is all about. So
makes sense to me. That checks out. But then again, you're the one who took it recently and did very well. There is one thing I want to hit on before I ask you about your CATs and how many you took and sort of how they helped you with your studies. You mentioned GMAT Club as a community, and that's exactly what we try and be. I assumed one of the directorship roles, not because it's a quote unquote profit-based website. It's a website that has been built around the idea of trying to help everybody succeed no matter what. And that's true. I mean, that's true to this point. Our focus and our goal is to help our users. Screw the people who actually pay us. So screw the suppliers and screw the sponsors. Frankly, I could care less about them. Now they're gonna be pissed that I say that. Write me an angry DM. I'll apologize.
Yeah.
But
at this point, you all just have too many users. They can't do anything about it anyway. So
right. So the point is, our focus is on you guys, not the other way around. And I'm glad that comes through a little bit, because that's what I've helped try to build as well, is that sense of companionship. But I want to hear about your CATs. How many CATs did you take through your studying?
Yeah, totally. So I did every single GMAT CAT, and of course they're different every time. But I'm pretty confident I went through all of them about twice, a little bit less, but I think
all the official ones. Yeah,
there are like 20 something GMAT CATs. I was taking 2 a day. So, I mean,
I did. God. Okay.
I finished. And again, like I was very committed. I said, you know what, I'm going to knock this out. I'm going to go heads down for 2 months. I'm not going to do anything but this in my free time. I'm going to get knocked out, so I don't have to worry about it. I did 2 CATs a day. So we're looking at probably around 40 to 45. And that's just necessary to get comfortable with the format, to build that intuition up. And it might take you less time. It might take you more time. Who knows? In the end, though, on my last week before the test, so I spent 4 weeks studying for the quant, and about 3 weeks studying for the verbal. By the end of the verbal prep, I was just throwing my hands up. It was just like, okay, like this is, sometimes I'm doing well, sometimes I'm doing not well. It really just depends on the test that I get. This is something that I'm just gonna have to say a prayer about before I enter the test room and just kind of hope, like
Okay.
Honestly, I mean, yes, like I studied stringently for the verbal section, and there are less strategies you can use and leverage.
So before we hit verbal, I do want
Yeah.
to ask a little bit about the CATs. When did you start taking them? Was that at the beginning of your studies, or was it once you started becoming confident that you were getting in the ballpark of your wanted score that you then started picking them up?
Okay, so I saw a graph online that showed an admissions and interview rates for M7 schools via GMAT Club. I believe it was posted on Poets and Quants, but I think the data was from GMAT Club, and it showed how yeah. So it's a great community across the board, but it showed how when your GMAT score increases, and once you hit a certain level, you are like a 1 in 3 chance of, you're just rolling the dice. Like, am I going to get a interview at this institution? So I looked at that and I saw, okay, it looks like once you break 760, 770, 780 in that range, you're saying, hey, look, like I'm not the same. Like I have the ability to think on a different plane than most people. You want me at your institution. That's what that says to top tier facilities.
Sure.
More or less, like if you're thinking about what a GMAT club really says, it basically says, okay, look, I can think at a high level, at high velocity, and with a large amount of information, and can process a lot of it quickly. Can make good decisions in terms of time management as well, especially. But yeah, so I've kind of gotten off track here a little bit.
That's okay.
But yeah, so we're talking about. I think the question was how many CATs did I take?
No. When did you start taking?
Sorry.
Them?
Yeah. Sorry. So okay. So I saw that chart and I thought to myself, okay, this is the score that I need. Then I went to the chart that referenced, okay, here's what the score looks like. There's a beautiful XY diagram where it shows like, okay, you get this quant score, this verbal score. Here's what your composite is. So then I took my first test. I got my result back. I was or my first practice test, was very unhappy about it. I looked at it, I was like, wow, I can do better than this. This is, honestly, it was the competitive drive at first. So I took my diagnostic test on, like late August, something like that. I got my result back.
So 3 weeks, 4 weeks in, give or take?
Okay, so yeah, I missed this point. You want to take it as soon as you register for the GMAT, as soon as you know that you're going to take it, take your diagnostic test, take one of those 2 first tests, see where you start, because you need a reference point. Yeah, then I just said, okay, I'm going to take, and this is just the nature of life. You have to give it something time to figure out, okay, am I going to be able to meet my goals within a timely manner? But you can't tell until you have some information about yourself. So then I looked at my score. I said, okay, I scored probably a 45 on my first quant section or quant cat, and looked at it and I said, okay, look, like I can bridge the gap here. I know the answer to these questions that I'm missing. I know that I can get these right in the future. So then took a week. After a week, I was scoring, 49, 50, something like that. I was like, okay, great. Now going from 49, 50 to 51, that's harder than going from 45 to 50, in my opinion. Going from 50 to 51. And again, it's a roll of the dice whenever you step in that test room. But yeah, so you're talking about getting that baseline score first, and then going forward, like I said, I think I took 45 CATs before I took another diagnostic test. And when I saw that my score had gone up to a 50, I said, okay, we are where we need to be. This is 100%. Where this is a score range that I want to be in, and obviously like referencing the CAT scores as well and seeing, okay, like I said earlier, on a normal distribution, I'm getting 25% 49, 50% 50, 25% 51. this is as much control as I can have over this. I'm moving on to the next section. So,
which was verbal.
Exactly.
All right, good to know. So I have one last quant-based question, and then we can move on to verbal. By the way, folks, those who are asking questions on the side chat, I will try and get to those at the end. I'm hoping to cover the majority of them during the conversation, but if I don't hit on one, I'll try and come back to it. So just so everybody's aware. So Quant, you mentioned you used our CATs. So clearly you didn't stick to OG for Quant, like official guide questions exclusively. Did you feel that you could use any source and that was going to be okay? Or did you try and stick to certain sources as you were going through your prep?
Sources as in...
So you have OG, which is like the official stuff. You have like Veritas Prep, who put out Quant questions. You have Manhattan GMAT. You have Magoosh, you have Princeton, you have Kaplan, I mean, so on and so forth.
Totally. So I don't know if the other services provide pure Quant Section CATs. I couldn't find it on their websites, or actually I honestly wasn't looking for it either.
I don't think they do.
I mean, 1,000 Quant questions is more than enough to prepare, especially the quality that they are on GMAT Club. That's more than enough to prepare. It's cheap, it's effective, it's honestly all you need. So I didn't really give it much second thought, at least the other websites. On the other hand, in the final week before I went into the test room, I bought 6 tests from Veritas Prep, and I bought 6 tests from Manhattan Prep as well. And then again, like every single morning, every single afternoon, I was doing a test in the morning and a test in the afternoon, skipping the IR section, skipping the AWA section, just because I just, I didn't think like, okay, this is important or as important necessarily given time constraints. And honestly, like full disclosure, literally 15 minutes before the test, I decided, okay, the AWA section is probably something I should just blow off. So I got on GMATclub.com and I looked up AWA strategy, read an article, and then went in and
that's read Chinese Burns AWA.
Yeah, it was like a format, like, hey, like, here's the sentence structure, and I said, okay, looked at it, like tried to memorize it as best as possible, took that in the room with me. It worked out. I got a 6 on it. So, I'm also a native English speaker, so I've got a major leg up on a lot of people there.
So for AWA and IR, I'd recommend you don't blow it off. We have an IR section under the Quant forum on GMAT Club, and we also have a study guide that was created by a user called Chinese Burned, spelled the way that it sounds. I think it's the most kudoed / liked post on the forum. I take that very personally because it's not one of my posts, but I'll live with it. So for anyone who's thinking about blowing off, yeah, there we go. So Selby gets it. Selby, if you actually, if you could help me out by posting the link to his or hers AWA to the post, that'd be really helpful. Selby is a forum moderator. She's our project manager for social media, and so she's tagging along here to see what this is all about. So I don't mind asking her to help here. But don't blow off AWA, please. But shifting back, so verbal's where you had struggles. And I know that a lot of our users struggle with it too. Incredibly.
Yeah.
My first question, did you use any of my guides?
Did you write the official guide?
Official guide? What do you mean?
Yeah, the official, like the 200-page PDF?
No, that was not me.
Okay. I that's the only resource I used on GMAT Club. Other than that, for the verbal section, I used the Manhattan Prep 6th edition sentence correction. I did not spend a whole lot of time preparing for the RC or the CR, just because I was pretty much nailing those. Like by the time I was done studying, and again, it comes down to intuition. I mean, like by the time I was done studying, I was pretty much nailing every single RC and CR question. It came down to the sentence correction questions, where it's just like, I understand. This is just another kind of math. This is literally just another kind of mathematics. It's grammar. Like that's all it is. It's just like it's an accounting problem on a question, especially for those parallelism questions. It's an accounting problem. So.
All right. By the way, the link I just showed was for Chinese Burns AWEIR, just so everyone's clear. Okay, so you started with SC, but okay, CR and RC, I mean, you did OG questions, I assume, but nothing really beyond that.
Yeah, I was, yeah, I did the GMAT Club tests probably. So I shoveled out 4 weeks of time for this as well. The first week, I had no idea what I was getting into. And again, I'd read online prior, this is a notoriously hard to determine how you're going to do. There's a lot of variance in the scores.
Yep.
Within one person, like no one's going to get the same score like a consistent number of times. Or the normal curve is on like they've got just longer tails. So looking at that, after about a week and a half, probably about, I mean, obviously once you go through the verbal section, the CATs, it's harder to do that again because for some reason you memorize the questions better and the answers.
Yes, you do.
So yeah, so and especially, I mean, just in terms of raw volume, right? Like there's just less of it. So that, I mean, if there's one recommendation I would have the GMAT Club, build out that verbal section and see if there's a way to enhance the prep there. But at any rate, I used all of those tests to start my preparation process. Once I realized, okay, this is really hard to control for. On some tests, I'm getting like a 39. On some tests, I'm getting like a 50. There's no way to know until I step in the room. And of course, like I said, there are things you can control for. And I think the sentence correction is really the best way to do it. Or, I mean, I say that with a grain of salt because it's really like difficult at certain points.
It is.
Yeah. So I did that and then quickly realized there's not a whole lot of verbal prep offered on the internet. That's kind of whenever I pivoted into, okay, it's time to focus on memorizing the rules of grammar, memorizing the cases on CR, RC, memorizing like all of that. It's honestly more of developing a mock case. Honestly, that's what it's more like for those RC and CR questions. It's honestly not so much different from Quant. It's just knowing how the funnel system works, essentially. Like how do you get from the information that you're given to the answer that is correct? And the beautiful thing, and again, the ugly thing about GMAT, they love to put those answers on there that are half right, and then they love to put the answer that is correct on there. That just doesn't sound right. It's just such a bizarre thing that they've just mastered. I don't know which person is responsible for coming up with some of those, but it's like you are a cruel man or woman or whatever.
Many.
Yeah.
There are hundreds out there. They employ people to write these questions purposefully just to trick you. And they tend to be people like you, though. They're high scorers who say, okay, well, if I write this question, here's what I'm thinking a lot of people are looking for. So I'm going to make them look over here, but I don't want them to look over here where the real answer is.
You know what I thought while I was going through the prep process? I thought to myself, it's literally this section is crowdsourced from people who are at pubs drinking, and someone asked a funny question that had a really bizarre answer, and they're like, dude, this would be really funny to put on the test to screw with people. This would be great, It's just like, okay, great, that's the idea that I got. It's a funny section. It's honestly, again, it's a beautiful section. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so when you're talking about preparing for how I prepared for the verbal, this might sound funny for English speakers, but the number one thing that helped me with the RC and the CR was, and this was just coincidental and just coincidentally very helpful as well. Mm-hmm. I've been learning French for probably about a year and a half now, and I started studying for it very intensively. Yeah, well, I started studying for it pretty intensively and reading French literature, and it's like whenever you're doing that, you're forcing yourself into a different mode of thought, and you have to use all of the evidence on the page to create some image in your brain about what's going on, and it's mm-hmm. It's almost like relearning. It's like taking baby steps. So then taking that out and then reading an English section, it changes the way that you read something. It changes the way that you reason with something. And it changes the way that you glean information, especially from convoluted and complex passages. So if you're in the process, or if you have like, 2-3 years of Spanish under your belt, I would consider like reading some Spanish literature, reading some newspaper articles, reading something like that. And if you're a non-native, then really, I honestly feel badly for you. We have the weirdest language. Like people,
We do.
we just say the most bizarre stuff, and you could say one thing and mean something completely different. I guess, like, for example, like I was listening to a radio show the other day, and someone used the term turning tricks, not to get vulgar, but it's like, okay, if you're not from America, you would have no idea what turning tricks is, but it's honestly a pretty vulgar thing.
So that's the idiomatic way that we speak.
Exactly. Thank you to Shakespeare, honestly. So,
Yeah.
if you're not familiar with the morphing of the English language and how Shakespeare's responsible for it, seriously, I'd look into it. It's spectacularly informative and crazy how much impact he's had on literature.
Yes,
but
the
anyway,
Elizabethan way of his grammar and everything else that we had to learn in high school was always fun.
But the way that we talk now is influenced a lot by the literature that and the plays that he put out. The idiomatic approach to speaking and whatnot can be accredited a lot to and honestly, built on top of that, the success of the English language can be accredited to Shakespeare abroad, because his plays were so successful and so revolutionary that people actually learned English to read Shakespeare, which is pretty crazy. Like, imagine being that good at writing. But anyway,
there we go. Fun fact of the day, folks.
Yeah. Hey, listen. Yeah, I'm full of them. So again, I know it might be really inconvenient to learn a language, especially as you're preparing in parallel for the GMAT. So that's probably not good advice. But if you're talking about just raw, like, what can I do over the course of the next 3 weeks, do the CATs on GMAT Club for sure. Those are great. Again, it's hard to control for. It's harder to build prep materials, more time intensive, and everything. But the other thing that helped me was doing the prep guide for sentence correction via GMAT Club, doing the prep guide for sentence correction via Manhattan Prep, and then just kind of flipping through the various posts on GMAT Club, how to prepare for CR, how to prepare for RC, and stuff like that. But for me, it was just like, okay, I'm not going to stress out as much about this. This is a lot harder to control for. Again, I'm gonna do my best to know all of everything that I can know, all the strategies I can know going into it, but I'm not gonna be super stressed about it. And if I don't get the score that I want, I'm just gonna take it again, because, like we've been saying this entire time, the score that you get on the verbal section is so subjective to the test that you're taking. And just the day, like, you could be the person that gets the hard test, and you could be the person that gets easy test. And if you take the GMAT enough times, I guess it's expensive, but you're bound to get the easier one at some point. So
there we go. That's a power through. Just keep taking.
Yeah.
tests.
Yeah. So
I guess I have two more questions, then we can sort of shift over to what people have been talking about. Been a lot of chatter in this one for some reason. Not a lot of questions, but just a lot of chatter, which I found interesting. First, did you experience any anxiety as you were studying or as you were taking the test? And if so, how were you able to manage it?
Okay, yeah, this is just an advertisement for something completely to the left of GMAT Club. Meditate. That's my solution.
Fairly common one to be said.
Yeah, it's definitely a popular strategy for people across the board. I meditate for about half an hour every single morning, and since I started doing that, I don't get maybe I get a little anxious, but I can manage it. So going into the test room, the night before the test, all of that, I didn't lose sleep, nothing like that. I was pretty calm, and I 100% attribute that to just leading a healthy lifestyle, eating well, exercising, meditation.
What do you bench, bro?
Oh man, I haven't been in the gym benching in a while, but
Oh, you wimp.
yeah, but probably like 5 or 6 plates on each side, you know?
Wait, what?
No, I'm playing, man. But anyway, so
I
yeah,
was about to say, like, that would have outdone me, and I would have been really pissed because you're probably smarter than I am. I don't want to know your IQ because I'm fairly certain it's higher than mine. I mean, you're a fairly good looking dude to say the least. By the way,
dude,
there are
I don't
women
know.
in your life?
Your jawline's looking pretty sharp compared to mine. So
I appreciate that. But hey, is there a woman in your life?
there's not. No, there's not. So.
Ladies, this is a golden opportunity right now. This is a successful, handsome guy who's incredibly intelligent, who's going to go to a very highly ranked business school, who's probably going to be everybody's boss one day, if I'm not mistaken. So,
I appreciate the shout out. I appreciate the shout out. Look, slide in the DMs on LinkedIn, whatever. We can hang out, we can talk, whatever. I'm a friendly guy, so.
There we go. He's Florida based right now. So if you're down in Florida, message him. But he may be heading up to the Northeast to the Boston area at some point. So now if you're in the Northeast, Boston area, suburbs, same thing, golden opportunity. And this is Selby just being funny.
Oh yeah. No, that's 100% true. That's 100%
No, it isn't.
True.
No, it isn't. Bench press. I want all of you to bench press. These bench press is good. Bench press is life. Oops.
Yeah. I mean, you got to get the testosterone level up somehow. That's also something that's great for doing well in GMAT. I don't have like a whole, I'm not like one of those biohacker guys where it's like, I've read an article before. I've read a few articles actually recently, and one of them had me like left the gasp where I was like, wow, this is truly bizarre. But yeah, all weightlifting is going to boost your performance elsewhere as well, just as your testosterone goes up. So that's something to think about, I guess.
I think I'm like this. Wait, so how do you feel about long distance relationships? Now we got a lot of people who are in India. We got a lot of people who, obviously in China. We've got a lot of people in Canada, maybe. Oh, let's say Europe. I think we have a few in Canada. How do you feel about the long distance relationship? Some of these women, they may be calling you from across the world. Are you okay with that?
That's totally fine by me.
Ooh, okay.
I really don't have any like requirement. I mean, I'll keep my requirements myself. But French speaking is a big plus. I would love to be in a relationship where I can speak French with my wife. So that's kind of the goal. But anyway,
for the record, I'm straight. Just in case anybody was wondering, based on that comment. Not that I should ever have to clarify that, but yeah, no, I'm doing this for his benefit here. I'm okay as a confident heterosexual male saying that other guys look good. So just so everyone's clear here.
Back at you, buddy. I think the haircut looks nice. I think the clean shave approach is a great one. Everything seems to be firing for you as well.
I appreciate that.
So, I mean, I guess like the question is, do you have a girlfriend? Really?
I don't know if I should answer this truthfully or not. Screwed. I'll say truthfully. No. You answer truthfully, I will too. The answer is no. I'm currently unattached.
Oh man,
I wanted to think about that for
the hesitation says a lot, Evan. The hesitation speaks volumes. I'll say that.
Well, so on GMAT Club, if my inbox gets flooded, I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing.
I see. Okay.
Or the our Instagram, which I've started doing videos with them too. I don't know if that's a good thing if all of a sudden I get 50,000 DMs. But please do. You know what? Help my ego. The ego's taken a beating over the last couple of months here. It's not a GMAT discussion anymore. No, yes, it is. I beg to differ. But anyways, I will shift back a little bit. So I asked you about anxiety. We checked that off. And you talked about extracurriculars too. So exercise, reading, taking another language. I assume those helped center you a little bit to keep you moving forward. Just that way you had a mental break.
Yeah, absolutely. To be honest with you, Since about June, I've been pulling pretty much 12 hours a day working on something. That to be honest with you, I am just a freak when it comes to that kind of thing. I love working. I love making progress. And I mean, 12 to 14 hour days, most days where I'm on my devices or doing something, talking to somebody, working on something, working on a project. And it's just my passion. Outside of those 14 hours, it's literally, family, gym, sleep, and again, like it's not 14 every day. It's like 12. I would say my baseline is 12 on the weekdays. And then on the weekends, I probably try to do like 8 to 10, spend,
you're worse than I am. Jeez.
I like to get up early and do it all and then spend some time with my grandma. So that's pretty much.
Hear that, ladies? He loves his grandmother too.
I love my grandma.
What else are you looking for?
So yeah,
he built orphanages in his free time, by the way.
Oh yeah. With my bare hands, it's really it's a sight to see. It's a sight to behold. So yeah, again, it is necessary to keep yourself centered during your preparatory process. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Again, meditate. Like that's the number one thing. Exercise, that's the number two thing. Eat well. Eat well is probably number two, and exercise is number three. They're all probably number one, though, honestly.
No, I'd agree. You need the balance. You need to be able to keep yourself whole, if you will. Actually, you know what? I said I had 2 more questions. I do have 2 more questions, and then we can go to the side here. One, what are your future plans? This is a good chance. Maybe a school's watching. So, what school do you want to go to? Is it Harvard? Is it MIT? Is it Wharton? Is it Columbia? Stanford? What's up with that?
Oh man, I'd love to go to MIT. I would absolutely love to go to MIT one day. That is a dream school. As a technical person or with a technical background, you hear, oh yeah, I'm a MIT physics guy, and you think, wow, you are literally one of the brightest people on the planet, and I cannot,
I'm
the
looking
things
for
that
one of those.
Yeah, like that is like the reputation they have. At least with technical people, especially. But I definitely have my sights set on MIT, Harvard, GSB, Chicago. It's a blanket right now, but I haven't ruled out, LBS or even, is it HBS in Paris?
No, it's Harvard Business. So you're HEC.
Oh, HEC is one of the H's, but at any rate, yeah. So and just like having a more cultural experience. However, I do know that like M7 schools are just going to be. Actually, I can't say for sure, and obviously, like there's a lot that goes on over the course of 4 to 5 years, and you see a lot of the European schools making really big leaps in their programs right now. Yeah. So like that, but 100% MIT would be my number one at this point, and I hope to go into. My goal is in the next like 5 to 6 years to be a PM on an AI development team, essentially. AI, machine learning, stuff like that. That's that is 100% like my specialty. So looking at stuff like that.
You and I need to talk, but either way. So I'd recommend potentially looking into consultants. Expensive, they're an investment, but I know plenty of people who use consultants, leverage them, and consultants aren't a magic bullet to get you into a school, but they might help you go from maybe a rejection to a wait list, and maybe from a wait list to an acceptance. That could be the difference there. So I would highly recommend that, given the competitive nature of the schools you've listed. But the last question I have, and by the way, good luck. I think you're well qualified. I think you'll do fine. Do you have any last comments that you feel that we didn't hit on that you really wanted to say? Piece of advice, anything that just deep down you wanted everyone to know that I didn't ask or tease out of you? And you can say no, by the way. That's okay too.
I can't think of anything, to be honest with you. If you have any specific questions to me, again, no. You can talking to the audience in general. You can reach out to me via LinkedIn. Seriously, I don't know if they like charge or if they make you do like something weird to send DMs. I hope not. I think my
If
settings
they're
are
connected with you, it doesn't cost anything.
open. Okay. Yeah, I feel weary about disclosing my email address.
You don't have to. You're on GMAT Club. Have them message you using your account.
Yeah, okay, perfect. My handle is WESTON24. Send me a DM. That's fine. I check it about once a day. So that's a great means of communication as well. Do people usually disclose of their email addresses on these sorts
Not required. Some do, some don't.
Is it a typical thing?
Not really.
Okay, yeah, I'll keep it to myself then.
Yeah, no. Keep all the personal information to yourself. No one's going to judge you. Everyone can access GMAT Club and send you a message there. We have a message system in place. Anonymity isn't a bad thing. And having your personal email and stuff stay personal, I do the same thing. There's a reason why my last name is not spelled out. Wait, where's my finger? Right here somewhere. I like my privacy, and you do too. To answer Himanshu's question, we don't do transcripts, but this will be posted on YouTube. It gets recorded as we do this, so you will be able to revisit it as you need post ending it. But let's flip through some questions. Let's see if there are any good ones in here. Stand by. Nope, can't answer that one. I don't think John has heard of Target Test Prep, TTP, but I can answer that one. I know a lot of our moderators have used it and they've had a lot of success with it and they've really, really liked it, at least from a quantitative perspective. So if anyone's interested in TTP, Target Test Prep, I can't say that I've heard anything bad about them. All I've heard are positive things. All right, here's a question. Hi, a quick question. I understand that Manhattan Prep, Veritas, and GMAT Club helped you. I may have missed it, but what about OG? Did that create enough exposure for you? So I guess what she's asking is, were OG questions enough to get you to where you needed to be to do well on the exam?
I never referenced OG questions once. I mean, that was just not
unique.
that wasn't my resource. I honestly I don't even know what the acronym stands for. I know that you mentioned it earlier, but I forget it every time. Yeah, I never saw that. I honestly, I'm the kind of guy that likes to pay people for their services. If you're going to give me something, I definitely want to help you out and pay you to use your product. So whenever I was using GMAT
you
Club,
buy the books, like the official guides are books that you buy online, or you can buy online. And then
I'm missing that. Okay, I was thinking that was like the forum on GMAT Club.
No, like official guide questions, like GMAT Prep and stuff like that.
Okay, totally. For the quant section, I didn't do any books whatsoever. The questions were enough for me to understand what I need to know, and the posts regarding the formulas were enough to detail the other things that I needed to know. Like, I mean, just the formulas in general that you need to know. As far as the verbal section, the books helped me. There's a particularly useful book on GMAT Club, a PDF. It's about 200 pages for sentence correction that I found particularly useful. The SC, RC, and CR guides on from Manhattan Prep were particularly useful as well. Just the most recent editions, you can probably order them on Amazon. Outside of that, I tried to keep it pretty much like, okay, like I'm not a big like, I guess I'll leave that out, but I'm big into hacking together educational material just because it's all out there somewhere. And part like as you're aggregating it, you actually, like in my opinion, you learn more by aggregating the information into your own database. Like in the process of doing that, you learn, as opposed to just like ordering a textbook. I wouldn't call it lazy to simply order a textbook, because like they can be incredibly useful. But what I am saying is that if you're talking about cost effectiveness, you can find all of the resources you need for free outside of the services provided, like there is no unique service. It's like, hey, like look, you can take, and again, I might be missing something on GMAT Club where you can take the CATs for free or something. But again, like I said, I prefer to pay because I think it's a great service. I want the people responsible for making it to reap the benefit in the same way that or in a reciprocal of what I'm reaping, right? So
that's fair. We appreciate it. That said, not required. One statement about our CATs. So again, if anyone ever thought that we weren't like completely open about things, I hope this helps assuage some of the hesitation there. Our quantitative CATs, I think, are one of the best in the world. I think they're more difficult than the real one that you're going to experience, the actual test, but they are of quality. When it comes to our verbal CATs, I mean, I'd stay away from those. Do not trust those. The questions are not up to par with what you need to have an accurate understanding, or I guess understanding, representation, portrayal, name it, of your actual performance. So I would stay away from that side of it and use either the official CATs you can do, the mocks, or use Veritas Preps or MGMATs. Those would be the ones that I would stick to if you need that extra help on the verbal side to see where you stand. And by the way, Shelby is right here. PMing on GMAT Club is the new slide to the DMs. Yep. And to everyone who's done that to me, I appreciate it, but don't think I didn't know what you were doing. Which test series is the best for actual GMAT exam? The official ones. Nothing can beat the official ones. And I think that's all the questions. The rest of these are sort of about finding stuff on GMAT Club, which I would highly recommend you guys search through the forum. I want to help you. At the same time, you have to learn to search the forum. John did, and he loves it now.
It's amazing. I mean, again, like BB, he said to me that he laughed out loud, so I've got no way to verify that he actually did, but
he did. I was talking with him about it.
So the first PM that I sent him, I said, hey, look, like, this is the score that I got. I just wanted to reach out and say, look, like, this is an amazing product. You are helping hundreds of thousands of people, and no one else out there has a service that runs parallel to this at all. Like at the price point, the community that comes with it, it really is a unique and superior service to anything else you're going to find on the web. Like you said, especially for those Quant Section CATs. And again, like the verbal section on GMAT Club definitely needs some work, but that's aside the point.
Well, the CATs in particular, our verbal forum has every OG question made, more or less, has Veritas Prep, MGMAT, LSAT. Use it as the repository that it is. Okay.
Yeah, I totally probably could have leveraged that to my advantage.
Yes, you should have.
I skimmed over that. I definitely skimmed over that. But yeah, totally. GMAT. I mean, so I said to him, "This is an amazing product. Listen, if you ever update the UI, please leave a button in the top right-hand corner to switch the old UI, because this is a beautiful artifact of the 2000s, which is awesome."
Yeah, he thought you were nuts. I'm not gonna lie. He thought you were nuts. We were on the phone together, and he was talking to me or telling me about you, and was saying, "Yeah, this user messaged me and said he loves the form. He never wants it to change, and we're all nuts to think about it." And no, we had a good laugh about it. It wasn't negative, saying like, "Yeah, this guy's a loony bin. We need to get him off the site." No, it was an appreciation for something that's evolved over 20 years, but is still maintained its, I guess, the bones, if you will, of the structure. So it is a reflection of, I guess, a simpler time.
Yeah, and I've been there for sure, where you have something that works and you're talking about updating, and it's just like, wow, this is really just a bottom list item. Like we don't have a real it's working really well. The UI is intuitive.
People complained. I mean, the UI is a little complex. Oh yeah. Oh really? So for those of you who say like, oh, we need to update the UI, and it's not as simple as it should be. It's not as straightforward as it could be. We have heard you, and we are taking steps to try and address them.
Oh man, yeah. I don't know. I love that 2006 feel. It just something about it. It just sends me back, man. It sends me back.
Go play
So,
RuneScape. That still has it.
oh man, if I got back on that, I think my professional career would be over. Honestly,
Dude, they have an old school version. It's like playing when you were 5 years old.
oh my gosh, You should have never told me that, man. But
And the only reason I mention this, I played when I was younger. I loved it. It was my childhood in elementary and part of middle school before I actually started sports and bulking up and having a life. But I know a couple of years ago it came out that they were using the actual old UI, like the old coding, and saying this is the old game. We want you guys back into it. I may have logged in once just to see it, and I may have been on like the biggest nostalgia trip I've ever been on in my life. So
yeah. What is it like? Like is it Lumbridge? Is it
Lumbridge
yeah.
is where you start. I think Varrock,
Yeah.
Falador. You know, you have to get like rune armor and that jazz.
Oh yeah.
Wood cutting and mining for gold pieces, whole 9 yards.
All I remember is just spamming B sale at the bank and just literally like, stuff like that. But yeah, just like on that topic, I was talking to someone recently. I think in the book 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, he poses the question, like it's his like common interview question, like what is a belief that you have that you think is uncommon? And that's just like one of the running notes I have on the notes app on my phone. Is like answers that question just because it is an interesting question. Like a lot of people think their beliefs are unique, but then you come to realize actually a lot of people think the same. And that's kind of the point of the question, right? Is like kind of testing like, okay, like to what degree can you relate to, or like at what I digress. One of the best answers to that question recently that I've heard was old video games are better than new video games. And it made me think for a second. It's like, okay, like that could be true. And obviously the line of reasoning has to be applied to that. But at face value, you think about it and you think like, wow, like those, I mean, and again, like it's subjective to age as well. Like the magic you felt whenever you logged onto RuneScape and you're in this virtual world for the first time. It's hard to describe, like if I were to do that now with something online, it would just be like, wow, this is silly. Like I'm going to go do something real. But
you would think, but I mean, nostalgia is a very powerful drug.
Indeed. Yeah. 100%. So,
but hey, no, I digress as well. By the way, The Sims. I mean, who didn't like The Sims 2, which may have been like the best computer game ever.
Truly.
And by the way, you'll note that both John and I are wearing AirPods, so I'm thinking we can get Apple to sponsor this one of these days.
Oh man, yeah. Really, honestly, I think that we deserve a contract of some sort. So
we have 1.2 million users. Tell me Apple wouldn't mind saying that they're sponsoring this GMAT Club chat every now and again. I think we can make it work. So if anyone who sees this works at Apple, message me on the forum. Username is Nightblade354. NIGHTBLADE, and then the numbers 354. Don't ask me why. It's a stupid name. Comes from childhood, as we've already hit on a little bit. Childhood makes you do stupid things. But John, this was a pleasure. We went slightly over an hour, but I think it was worth it. Really appreciate you joining here. I know our users really enjoyed you being here as well. And we'll hope to see you soon. We hope to have you back on to update us on your journey. But in the meantime, have a great weekend. And to all our users who stayed around for the whole hour 20, really appreciate it. You're good sports. Remember, John is single, so go and message him. He seems like a kind guy. Probably won't turn you down. Selby's video tomorrow. Please tune in for that. Show the love. The poor kid needs all the support she can get, believe me. So, until tomorrow, we will say goodbye for now. Talk to you later, folks.
Thank you.